Hello and welcome. You are listening to the Gay with God podcast, a safe place for us to share our stories and support one another. How long did we know? What challenges did we face? Did we lose our faith? When did we find our way back home? Or are we still searching? The stories you hear on this podcast will melt your heart and strengthen your belief that in God, all things are possible, and you can be authentically gay with the God of your understanding. I am your host, Midge Noble, and I am very honored that you are here. Hello, everybody. This is Midge Noble, and I am honored that you are here. I just continue to be amazed at how many people continue to share and subscribe to the podcast, and I thank you very, very much for all your support. So today we're going to talk about keep your inner light shining. I know you're like, do I still have an inner light? I'm too tired to shine my light. I need somebody to shine it for me. We are all just exhausted. And I say all, maybe some of you are like the Energizer bunnies that just continue to keep going. But for myself and for many people that I know, the fatigue and the exhaustion of just the chaos that we've been through since 2019, really, for some of us, it's just sometimes overwhelming. But for my Sacred Sunday post that I do each week, my post was Good Sacred Sunday Morning. We cannot rid the world of darkness. We can bring the light. Keep your inner light shining. So what does that mean that we can bring the light? And how do we keep that light shining? Well, of course, the light, I believe, is the light that resonates within all of us, that each of us have been given the gift of light and hope and love from the beginning of time. And even though we don't always show up that way, and sometimes it is a really big ask for us to love unconditionally, it is something that I personally am always working toward, even though I'm not perfect at it. And it is something that I believe that we're all tasked with doing. We are all tasked with being kind to one another and showing up for each other. Because if we don't do that, then we know what kind of chaos that's going to be. And we've seen it in the last few years as far as how, I don't know what the word is, just selfish, single-mindedness the world seems to have become. People are in a huge rush. Everybody is just self-centered a lot of times. Now, I know there are exceptions to that. I've seen it. I understand that. But if you look at the big picture, a lot of that angst that people are feeling is coming out as just I'm in this to save myself kind of mentality. It just really feels odd lately. And I want us to focus not on joining that pack mentality, but to start to remember who we are. And when we talk about being gay with God, we're talking about that we have reclaimed our faith, some of us. Some of us always had it and didn't lose it. But those of us who reclaimed our faith and we came back to a relationship with the God of our understanding, that comes with some responsibilities. It comes with living within that framework of how Jesus loved other people. And for us to do that, for us to be able to love other people, we have to reignite the light that's in us from Creator. And when we do that, then we can not only love ourselves as we're commanded to do, but we can better love others as we are commanded to do. So bringing the light is really the light of the love that we were given, I think, when we were created. And that love comes out in compassionate ways. It comes out in metta, which is loving kindness, activities that people do for one another. And that, compassion in action is all about doing something for someone else, even if you don't know them. So today, I want us to take the time to unpack what that would look like to bring the light into the world. And of course, I think we ought to start with ourselves, because if our vessel is not full, if we do not feel loving and positive about our own lives or about the world, it's really hard to turn the light back on. I used to do an activity with kids where we talked about some of the behaviors that we have that hurt other people or hurt ourselves. It's like we've taken the love light inside of us and turned it off. And I would have them stand next to the lamp, and every time they identified something that they had done that might have not been kind or did something wrong that they knew they shouldn't have done, we would turn the light off. And then we would pretend that the light got back in them and we would turn it on, and we would talk about the things that they did right or that they were doing that was loving and kind. And then the light would stay on until they came up with another example of something they did where the light would come off. And they started thinking of that as a game to see how many times we could turn the light on and off. But then I would tell them, well, that's the way life is if we're not paying attention, is that our light will go on and off all during the day. But if we pay attention to how we are expressing ourselves, how we're living our life, then the light will stay on more consistently and we won't get lost in the dark. So kids really enjoyed that activity and we had fun doing it, but I hope that it resonated with them and they kept thinking about it after the session, of course, and that they were making improvements every day. So let's talk about loving yourself and making sure that your vessel is full and that you have the skills that you need in order to keep your light on more consistently. And trust me and believe that I understand when my own light goes off and when what I need to do to turn it back on. So I'm not asking for perfection. I'm asking for us just to look at how much more consistent can we be to be mindful of whether or not we're about to do a keep my light on activity and when we might be giving ourselves permission to turn off the light. And then whatever we do, we know that it was something that we chose to do, and we might choose different next time. So, the first thing that I would encourage you to do is find moments of joy. The best way to take care of ourselves is to keep joyful moments in our lives. And what's joyful for one is not the same as others. So, only you will know what brings you real joy. And real joy might be the biggest ice cream sundae with hot fudge on it that you can find. For other people, it might be that real joy comes with just spending time with your kids without an agenda. You're not taking them anywhere. You're not cooking them something unless you decide to cook together because that's joyful. It's spending time with your kids. And what part of that really do you love? Do you love just watching them watch a movie and they giggle? Do you love it when they bring you something that they've made and they're so happy to gift it to you? Or is it an activity that you enjoy with your kids that really brings you so much joy and you hate missing it, or you wish that you could be in that place with them more often? So find those moments of joy with your kids or with your fur babies. What is it about, the pet that you love the most? Is it playing catch? Is it snuggling? Is it watching them interact with each other and do goofy things? So find those types. Maybe it's taking a hike, with your dogs, or you're playing with your kitties, or whatever pet that you enjoy the most. Um, Maybe a favorite movie that just sends your mind away from everything that's going on. Sometimes loving ourselves is detaching from the world and just doing a silly movie or a uplifting movie, or maybe it's a horror flick because it takes you completely out of the reality of today. And maybe we're saying that this is a horror flick that we're living in, and so we want to do something different. Perhaps church is the thing that brings you the most joy. Do you enjoy serving at church? Do you enjoy being a part of just listening to a really well done sermon? Do you enjoy the camaraderie of the people? You know, we had a really sweet lady at our church she said on Sunday that she had been there for 25 years. And now that she's much older and she's a lot frailer, and she will be moving to an assisted living home in Virginia. So she's going a long ways away. And so Sunday was the day that she was able to get back to church just to say her goodbyes before she left. And that church body was able to support and hold her. And our interim rector, before she gave the final blessing to all the congregation, she went into the middle of the congregation and found this dear sweet soul and talked to her directly, and prayed for her. Uh, before she was going to say goodbye to everybody. So I thought that that was such a tender moment, and I was so pleased that she was supported so well by everyone in the congregation. So, church families can be annoying, of course, and they can be the most compassionate, loving people that we all deserve. And so I hope that you have some kind of community, whether it's church or whether it's a group that you belong to, that feeds you and fills you up with lots of good, positive feelings, whatever that group is, wherever they join each other. Um, Please reconnect with your body of people that bring you joy. Maybe it's a hot cup of tea or taking a warm or cool bath, especially these days. Maybe it's just putting ice packs on yourself. Um, Taking a hike, doing meditation. We've talked about meditation before, and for many, many, many people, and even the monkey mind Midge that I have, it's hard to really get into a place of complete non-thinking, which is never really the whole goal because we are humans. Some people can get there, but don't push yourself to get there. Just give yourself permission to sit down and either look at a picture or a painting or out the window or at something else that's an object that brings you peace, and just meditate on that. Meditate on the feeling of joy, meditate on the feeling of peace, and allow your brain to just disconnect from everything else. And before you do that physically, imagine yourself unplugging electric cords out of your brain and out of your body wherever you feel tension, and disconnect all of that energy from yourself and allow yourself to just power down. And when you physically imagine that you're unplugging conversations or you're unplugging different tasks that you still have to do on your list, take just 5 minutes. Go longer if you can, but take just 5 minutes and break up the monotony of what you're doing and the stress of where you're at, and just power down. Unplug everything. Look at that picture or close your eyes and imagine something that brings you peace and tranquility, and just sit in silence for a little bit. The other thing, besides finding moments of joy, is go into that silence every day that we just talked about. So make this part of your routine. It can be first thing in the morning before you even get out of bed. It can be sometime during the day, or it can be the last thing you do in the evening, which can actually promote better sleep, by the way. So whatever time is best for you, make this a daily promise to yourself that you will find at least 5 minutes of silence and sit or lay down and bring that meditation time to yourself. And the more that you learn to quiet your mind, you can extend it a little bit more and a little bit more, and see how that starts to resonate with bringing you some inner peace. So, we've talked about moments of joy, we've talked about moments of silence and meditation. The next thing that I would offer to you in order to love yourself is to be with uplifting people. Now, that can be anybody. We talked in the first part of finding moments of joy that might include a group that you belong to or church. And this is sort of the same thing, but it is finding them specifically, whether it's family, friends, church groups, whatever group of people that really support you. It could be one person. It could be just one person that you've always known that knows you best and will never judge you for where you're at. And find that one person or that group of friends or whoever that is, and make sure that you are connecting with them. Call them, get them on the phone, video chat with them, go to lunch, do something. Find time to connect, because when we get really overwhelmed, we tend to isolate. And isolating is not necessarily a bad thing, because sometimes we do need that alone time. But when it starts to continue to extend and all we're doing is isolating, that's a problem. And we then start to swirl in our own negativity and our own fears, and that's a problem. So make sure that you're connecting to people that have the ability to power you back up, and they have the ability to get you to laugh to the point where you're about to pee yourself. It's that type of joy with those beloved people, wherever you find them, that you connect with, and it just fills your heart up. The next thing that I would suggest is to read uplifting material. Put down the newspaper for a little bit, or maybe for a lot. You're going to get the news. It's everywhere. You're going to hear what's going on in the world. But if you're continuously reading things that are depressing and that are pulling you down, stop and read things that are uplifting. It might be quotes or mantras that you find very peaceful and joyful. It might be a book that somebody recommended to you that says, "This is the best book. I felt so great after reading this book." It might be a podcast that makes you laugh, or that makes you think, or that makes you feel good. So find those podcasts that uplift you. Hopefully, this is one of them. But there are so many great podcasts out there. Spend time looking and listening to other things. And it may be that you also just want to watch a movie. You don't have to read anything. I have found lately that reading is really overwhelming to me sometimes, and I just can't read another word. I read a lot for the lay preaching class I'm in. I read a lot to get prepared for Bible studies and other things I'm doing. So, reading is not always what I would call joyful at this point. It's more work than it is joyful. Although there's this really great book that one of my dear instructors and friends gave me. It's called Bishop of Mars. Oh my, this is a great book. And I'm having so much fun because it's sort of like a sci-fi thing, and it's just really interesting. It's by Stephen Charleston. Definitely find this book, Bishop of Mars. So it's really good. Anyway, so find a book that really lights you up, or some kind of quote or podcast or movie. Next, I would say spread good news. When we get into the spreading good news business, it ricochets back to us. So we spread something good, somebody else spreads it, and you'll probably, I don't know how many of you have done this, but you might have spread something, like posted something on Facebook and sent it out, and then somebody comes back on your feed and now they're sharing it and you get it back in your feed. And I think that's brilliant. And I call that the boomerang quote of happiness, really. And so those types of things can be very powerful. Not only are we helping other people, but then it comes back around and it's sent to you. And I think that's just awesome. So spread the good news. So if you hear or read something that is uplifting, share it. And make sure that when you share it on Facebook or wherever you share it, make it shareable. Make sure that people are able to, so it might be a public post of yours, and then everybody can see it and everybody can share it, but just make sure that you set that one post so that it could be shared, because we want to keep the good times going. The next thing I would say is avoid commenting on everything you see. I can just feel myself being exhausted when I think about this. But you know, when one of the posts on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok, whatever it is, gets you and it gets right into the middle of where you are just the most annoyed and you want to say something back and you want to get right in the middle of it and you think that whatever you're going to say is going to bring, the light, and it just doesn't. What comes back at you is a lot of hateful, unsensible rhetoric that's just cruel and demeaning, and it sends you down this negative spiral. So I know there is a time and a place where a comment might be helpful, but you need to really manage how far you go down that rabbit hole. And I am guilty of sometimes going way down that rabbit hole. And it's not good for me, and it's not good probably for anybody else who's watching that post. So I have really worked very, very hard at making sure that if I think that I have something that would be very worthwhile to say, or maybe if I just impulsively go ahead and put something out there that I think I need to say, if I get a barrage of negativity back from that, from one person or more people, I just let it be. And I leave the conversation, because there's no way that you're really going to change the hearts and minds of people who already have that much anger and hostility and bitterness in them, that they can't accept what you say and give you back a comment that may be, just a different opinion or a different viewpoint. There's a way we can disagree without being just toxically cruel and inappropriate. So if you get into one of those conversations, leave that conversation. It's not meant for you. If it's bringing you down and hurting you emotionally, leave it be. So the ways that you can love yourself is to find moments of joy, go into silence every day, be around uplifting people, read something uplifting or watch something uplifting, spread good news, and avoid commenting on everything that triggers you. So now let's switch from ourselves, and now that our vessels are full and we feel really good about ourselves and we're at peace, let's extend that love to others. So let's check in on people. You can make calls, schedule lunches, have drinks with people that you care about. So this is a twofer. So when you're doing that, you're caring for yourself because you're bringing all that love to you. But then when you go and make an impact on other people, you're also helping them. So when you do find your person or your group that's uplifting, make sure you have a regular time of doing that. It doesn't have to be the same day, the same time, but regularly schedule that in like you would any other appointment. Make sure it's on your calendar, mark out that time, and make sure that you are able to be together with one another. Secondly, share all the positive comments, quotes, books, podcasts you find. Have a watch party if you want to. You might find something that you really want to listen to and you think it would be great for your group of people. Have a watch party. Have something at your house, or go somewhere and do it together. And that way you're having community and you're doing something that's super positive. I loved all the watch parties that were going around for the 1946 movie. I showed it at the church, but some people were having the watch parties in their house and they had popcorns and themes and they just went nuts. So that was really kind of cool. Do something fun and quirky and just fill your house or wherever you are with joy, and that will also bring joy to other people. Sometimes, especially when we get a little bit more energy, and instead of having, going somewhere else, we have people to our home because we have more energy. And so we can then energize them so that they can have somewhere else to go besides their four walls. And that's helpful for all of us. Send cards to people you know who are lonely, scared, overwhelmed. Reaching out in this way costs very little, and it doesn't require vacuuming and dusting, but it is a visit all the same. And that person then may reach out to you, and then you may set up, drinks or lunch or some kind of time together in person. But just to get that card in the mail can light a person up. So make sure that if you may not be talking to them regularly, you may not be in the same circle all the time and have contact with them. But if they're on your mind, and this is the thing that I really want to stress, if you get the nudge to call somebody or you get the nudge to send a card, I think that's the Holy Spirit working through us to get to that person. And maybe that's all they need that day when they get that card in the mail. Maybe that is the thing that's going to just turn their whole day around. So if you feel that nudge, do it. And the last thing I would say is to join groups and donate your time, talents, and treasures to be the light for people who are in need. I'm sure all of you probably have some group that you donate money to, or there's an organization that you volunteer at, because I think that there are really so many great people in our world, and there are so many volunteers that do a lot of things. But look for opportunities to join a group that you can volunteer at or to at least donate to if you don't have the time to physically be present to do the work. You can possibly take your treasures and donate some money to be there for the people who are trying to do the work. Praying for people who are volunteering, who are marching, who are at the polls, who are organizing all the things that keep us afloat as far as the news that we need to hear and the ways that we can help. Be a part of that somehow, whether it's through your prayers or your donations or for actual volunteering. So it doesn't matter how you do it. It matters that we do something to give back to people who are really trying to bring the positive things back into the world and to keep that compassion in action and that meta loving kindness in our world. And the number one thing that I will leave you with today is believe. We have to believe in the positive outcomes that we want and what we expect. It's almost like putting our rockets of desire out into the world. And we imagine it, we feel it already being true. Manifesting things in our life is a real thing. I believe that. Some people say you're praying and that's coming true. Other people say that you're purposefully imagining whatever it is that you want to have show up in your life, and you feel it in your soul as if you imagine it so clearly that you feel it in your soul as if it's already here. And then the universe kind of, the more you do it and the more you stay consistent with that, it's like there's a magnet that it just draws it to you. I told this story a long time ago about how I really believed that I manifested the cabin because we really shouldn't have been able to afford it at the time that we did it. And yet I imagined it so well that I started to take something in the car. We were going camping up on the property. We hadn't built the cabin yet, but we were just going to the property to tent camp, and while we were paying it off. And so I I was collecting things. I had a corner in our garage that was the cabin corner, and I would find something that I wanted for the cabin and I would buy it and put it in this corner. And and one day I did something and I was taking it over. We were getting ready to go camping, and my beloved says to me, "What are you doing with that?" I said, "I'm taking it to the cabin." And she goes, "You're what?" I said, "I'm going to take it to the cabin." And she said, "We don't have it yet, right? It hasn't been built." And I'm like, "Oh yeah." So I took it to the corner. But I was living in this little la-la world that really was so full of that picture of that cabin. I could hear us going up the gravel driveway. I could see the cabin and that it was there. And it's amazing how much all of that really has manifested itself and come true. But back in the day, I was just learning how to do it. So I want to that this part about believing really struck me because also my dear friend and mentor who told me about the Bishop of Mars also sent this quote to me yesterday from Bishop Stephen Charleston. I have seen life return when all believed life was lost. I have seen broken relationships healed when no one thought it was possible. I have seen the room go electric when the faith of a community was galvanized by the presence of the Spirit. How about you? A great deal of our confidence in the future is not seen by looking ahead, but by looking behind. We have seen the possibilities before. We are witnesses. Like so many of you, I have seen the amazing and transformative power of the Spirit in action. What happened then can happen now, at any moment. We have a sense of hope because things can change, even when we have given up on change. Let's go and bring the light because we all have it. Thank you, everybody, for joining me today, and I appreciate you so very much. Remember to check out the Facebook group Gay with God, where we do a monthly Zoom group entitled My Faith Journey. If you need support to help you through your coming out and or faith journey, go to the show page at empoweredmidge.podbean.com, scroll all the way down to the bottom and see how you can connect with me. Also coming up in September, and it's during the week of banned books, September 22nd through the 29th, we will be having some sort of banned books and beers event to raise money for the Defense of Democracy, national nonprofit group, nonpartisan group. And I will get the correct date to you as soon as my dear friend Joel gives me the date that we can have it at the brewery. So please kind of let that week rest in your calendars if you're local and you can come. I would love to have you support the band Books and Beers, have a great beer with great people at a great brewery. So that's coming up at the end of September. And every month we have that Facebook group entitled My Faith Journey, and we would love to have you join that. You can either email me and I'll tell you how to get into it, or just go to the Gay with God Facebook page and join, answer all the questions, and you will see all the Zoom links for that Faith Journey group. The other thing that I would commend to you if you would like to participate in this is Sunday, August 11th, I will be preaching at my own church at the Church of the Good Shepherd in Asheboro on Sunday morning at 10:30. I am, as you can imagine, thrilled to be a part of the lay preaching initiative and scared to death to have this live streamed. So if you cannot come in person, you can also live stream the service. The church has a Facebook group, the Episcopal Church of the Good Shepherd in Asheboro, and you can find it streaming live there. There's also a YouTube channel that it also posts to. So you can either see it live and in person and talk to me afterwards, or you can stream it. And please feel free to give me your comments about that sermon because I'm learning and I welcome all constructive comments. Done with love. I know. I'm a little nervous about it, but I'm excited to lean into this call that I feel that I was given to be a light and spread the good news and maybe, as Jesus said, stir up a little trouble. Anyway, I hope you can join me on whatever format works for you. If you are listening to this podcast and are questioning whether you can be gay and be in a relationship with the God of your understanding, if you identify as LGBTQIA+, are not even sure if you are gay, God has always been within you, even when you didn't know it. You have always been gay with God. Thank you, everybody. Stay tuned to see how you can join the Gay with God community. And as always, you are loved. I want to invite you to become a part of the Gay with God community. How can you do that? Stay connected by messaging me your thoughts and comments in the comment section under the downloads of the show on the Gay with God show page. Subscribe to this podcast wherever you listen and share so we can increase our community outreach and be a light to those who are struggling to claim their faith. Consider being a sponsor so I can highlight your service in our community. We are all worthy of respect and a relationship with the God of our understanding. I want to thank you in advance for supporting this podcast. Together, we as a community will keep this show visible and our community stronger. Deep gratitude to my friend Tim McClendon of Tim McClendon Music for allowing me to use an excerpt from Interlude 4, a song found on his CD entitled Sundance.